What about Beterbiev Bivol? I know Beterbiev Bivol is like to me, it's like the most significant fight in boxing this year, bro. What do you think about that fight overall?
It's a true like 50-50 fight, and I tweeted about it. I said my head says Bivol. Like, come on, the younger guy, better jab, fresher feet, has that huge shock absorber neck to be able to absorb the power when he needs to win this fight over 12 rounds, right? The logical, but then my heart, my gut, which, you know, our hearts and guts tend to be a little more dramatic than our heads sometimes, says no. Beterbiev digs a little bit deeper in his fights. He exhausts himself a little bit more. He takes it to a 5th and 6th gear, right? He digs a little deeper, and he'll make it in the second half of the fight. He'll make it a fight, and the fight will break out, not the boxing match that Bivol will have the better of early. And once it becomes a fight, there's two Russian monsters, you know, giving their best. Beterbiev will get the better of that exchange. And then in that Lyndon Arthur fight, please tell me you saw it in the 6th or 7th. He dominated Lyndon Arthur, right? Everyone talked about how boring it was. I thought he looked very fast and threw some nice combinations. Mm-hmm. Lyndon Arthur got him with a right hand to the body midway.
I remember that.
And Bivol didn't throw punches for 30 seconds after. And it just so, and I wondered if that, you know, God gives us foreshadowing sometimes. It's whether you realize it or not. And I wondered in that moment, was that a little bit of foreshadowing of how Beterbiev will get to him? Because, you know, Beterbiev has that rarely thrown, and he's very good at it, mid-range, kind of straight right hand to the body, right underneath the elbow. And he could turn it, and he could throw it at a couple of different angles, but he throws a really good usually the great body work is what, you know, the hook to the body, inside the uppercut, something, or
power jabs to the stomach,
Floyd Mayweather stab to the body, right? The Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, Caleb Plant against Benavidez, stab to the body. This man, Artur Beterbiev, just so happens to throw that punch that Lyndon Arthur, the only good punch he landed basically the whole fight, he just so happens to throw that punch as good as anybody in boxing. So, and I think Bivol gets to a 3rd and 4th gear, but I think as fights go on, Beterbiev turns it up to like a 5th and 6th gear.
I feel like Bivol, when he fights, I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like when he's fought like guys that are naturally light heavyweights, he doesn't look as good as when he fights smaller guys coming up. Like, for example, like Pascal, smaller guy coming up, Canelo, smaller guy coming up. But the full-fledged guys, even if they're not like the highest rated light heavyweights, the guys like Craig Richards and Salamov,
Sullivan Barrera, almost went the distance but got knocked out in the last round. Yeah. But HBO was busy saying how pedestrian he was looking up until the knockout.
Yeah, he gets, I don't know what, like when it comes to fighting guys who are naturally 175, he doesn't light the world on fire. And everyone that's picking Bivol that doesn't quite understand Beterbiev's full skill set, they say, well, Beterbiev is the guy that comes forward and gets hit.
So when Beterbiev first came out the amateurs, you knew I loved Kovalev, right?
Yep.
I loved Kovalev's jab, his height, his right hand. And I remember Beterbiev came out, and there was this stories about he beat Kovalev in the amateurs. And then I looked at tape of him. This was like 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, no. Keep Kovalev away from him. I knew what a problem he was. And then I went to his fight in Chicago when Jesse fought Delorme, and he fought Callum Johnson.
Yep.
He walked right into a right hand, and Callum Johnson, who is a domestic British level fighter, put Artur Beterbiev on his ass. And it took me a couple years to shake that out of my mind. I was like, oh, Beterbiev ain't all that. Like, I saw him get dropped ringside in Chicago against Callum Johnson. Like, he ain't all that. Canelo will beat him. That's what I was on.
I remember you saying that. He just
comes forward, and Canelo's this amazing counter puncher, and he's faster. And even though he's small, he's so strong. He'll be able to take what Beterbiev dishes out, slide, catch, and then run his hands and punch in between his punches. And then he fought Vosdik, who I picked against him. Made me eat my words. Then when he fought Joe Smith, and he showed you, no. This is what I look like against a guy that can just come forward with power. That's actually Joe Smith. I'm Artur Beterbiev. I'm way better than that. You know, I know how to take angles to cut the distance. I got footwork. I can fight off the back foot.
It's a complete fighter.
Yeah, I'm elite. I'm elite. And if I beat Dmitry Bivol, I'm one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. Ask Lonnie B.
Yes. Shout out to Lonnie B.
So I had my little valley with Beterbiev after seeing him in Chicago get dropped, and now I'm back on the like, no, Artur Beterbiev's a great fighter, and
yeah. I feel like I kind of went through something similar. Although I would say I came back to the Beterbiev train a little earlier. I would say like maybe when he fought Marcus Brown on that fight, I started saying, you know what, okay, this guy, his jab, man, like his power jab, I feel doesn't get talked about enough. It's one of the best in the business. You saw the last fight with Callum Smith. He was just boxing patiently behind the power jab before he stopped him in the 7th round.
Yeah.
And that power jab, I feel, is going to offset a lot of the movement and the pendulum stepping and the footwork of that Bivol likes to use on his opponents.
He's going to start trading jabs with him, jabbing with the jabber, having more success with it as the fight goes on after initially being out jabbed by the busier, younger Bivol. And you're saying eventually when they start trading jabs, that shit's going to start hurting Bivol.
Because his jab is like his jab is like a straight right hand. It's a sledgehammer,
Right.
So we'll see how it goes, but it's a great fight. We got a couple questions for you, Sean, in the super chats or statements, I guess. David Esser says, I think Benavidez and Morel are ducking Ulises Iglesias. Oh, the guy that beat that Cuban. I forgot who he beat. Who did that guy beat? You probably don't even know who that is, Sean, do you?
I don't know who that is.
Chat, who did Ulises Iglesias beat?
Let me look up. Hold on.
I don't know a ton about him. I've heard his name.
I'm gonna. Don't worry.
He's one of the how you say the hipsters. That's a hipster fighter.
Let's see.
Hiram wants to know from you, Sean, why don't Saudi cards feel special if they're making big fights? What's that?
This is who we asked about.
No.
So he's something. Good singer. Do I